If these people don't want us over there, let's close our embassies. I stand with Ron Paul. Let's get rid of foreign aid altogether. Because as Ron Paul put it, the definition of foreign aid, that's taking from America's poor and giving it to another country's rich.
Yeah, but hang on, just
wait a minute.
You wait a minute. It's my show. Wait a minute. Hey, let me just challenge you. I'm challenging you because I think that is taking one extreme and going to the other. It may well be that America has too many embassies, has too much say in too many countries.
We're also broke.
Of course, you're not the only country.
How can we give to foreign aid?
You're not the only country that's broke in the world right now.
We're giving foreign aid on a basic term for you people. That would be the equivalent. You're losing your house. You're 3 payments behind on your car, but your cousin Bob from out of state needs to borrow $500 from you. Are you going to send it?
Well,
when you can't even make your own house payments?
Jesse, America,
we're broke. How in debt are we?
Well, you're certainly not as broke as many countries around the world.
Well, if they're worse and in more debt than us, I want to see a country that can say they have more debt than we do.
America remains a superpower. And
America, sure we are.
And all superpowers, I believe, have a responsibility to other countries around the world. Now, it may not be responsible. Really?
No.
You don't think America should have any involvement in any country in the world?
Sure, we can have involvement if they ask us. Since when should we be the world's policemen? Why do we have military bases in 160-some countries? We have no foreign country has a base here. Imagine if Hugo Chavez decided to buy 1,000 acres of land by Palm Springs and move the Venezuelan military in there. What do you think our reaction would be to that? Yet we have multiple bases in Korea, multiple bases in Japan, multiple bases in Germany. And Piers, last time I checked, those wars were over 60 years ago. Why are we still there?
Well, the argument would be to prevent another war of that nature. Why would you laugh at that? Isn't there a reality that there are lots of people out there who would like to harm America and its interests?
Our military today is so advanced we can be anywhere in the world in a matter of seconds, minutes or hours. We do not need to be an empire like Rome occupying with our military throughout the world. And if you notice, I'm getting nothing but nods out here, Piers,
from regular American cities. Would America be safer without any embassies in any country?
I'm not saying necessarily to get rid of embassies. Absolutely have embassies. But if these Middle Eastern countries are going to behave towards us the way they do, then let's get the hell out of there. Americans have very short attention spans. They usually can only remember about a year ago. They need to remember about 4, 5, 6 years ago of who caused this. Let's take my lifetime. I was born post-World War II, 1951. Now, if you count the Cold War and the war on drugs, which the war on drugs is a war, I lived 4 months of the year in Mexico. 20,000 Mexicans, I believe, died last year as a result of the war on drugs. Do you realize we've been at war my entire life? My entire life. We have been at war. Is that the role of the United States? Perennial war, at war all the time. No, I've had enough of it. Let's listen to Jimi Hendrix for a moment, who's on my shirt.
Blimey.
Jimi Hendrix. Quote from Jimi Hendrix, the greatest guitar player ever.
That's the first time they've applauded you in the last 10 minutes.
All right.
Was when you invoked the name of Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix. When the power of love overtakes the love of power, then we'll have peace. When the power of love overtakes the love of power, then we'll have peace.
They have affiliates in many countries and are trying to expand their reach. These are not opinions to be debated. These are facts to be dealt with. These are not opinions to be debated. These are facts to be dealt with.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories concerning the attacks of September the 11th, malicious lies that attempt to shift the blame away from the terrorists themselves, away from the guilty.
What we're all agreed on is that the death of Osama bin Laden was a good thing. But be honest, is America any safer now than it was when he was killed? Or from all we're seeing now in the Middle East, all the uprisings, all the kind of reverse Arab Spring, if you like, are you concerned that it may be a hornet's nest that's getting out of control?
No, because I think that lots of times these uprisings are orchestrated. I believe in the works of Colonel L. Fletcher Prouty when he said, nothing just happens, everything is planned. I truly believe that. And so these uprisings that are happening right now, we don't know really who's behind them. They could be our own CIA helping to do it.
Right, well,
who knows?
But did we know who we were backing? I mean, that's one of the key questions.
Backing at what?
Well, in Libya, in Egypt.
I have no idea.
All these countries. When you oppose a Mubarak or a Gaddafi or so on, did we really know who these rebels were? And are we now perhaps seeing the results of not knowing too well who they are?
We're here wanting to give democracy to people who have lived, in my opinion, in the Stone Age. I think the bigger question to ask is, here we go, another religious war. Because most every war that happens on this planet is due to the fact of religion.
Will you be running or not in 2016?
I don't know. I need to have ballot access in all 50 states, and I need some type of guarantee that I will be allowed in the debates, because you cannot win if they won't let you debate, but if you can debate, you can win. Because in Minnesota at the primary, I was only polling between 8 to 10%. I was allowed in the debates. 7 weeks later, I was the governor of Minnesota. You know, they always say, Piers, in the private sector, competition's good, right? Isn't that what we always hear? Well, how come competition isn't good for president? Why has it been 20 years since we've seen any third voice in a presidential debate? Because these two parties they make the rules, and they will not let anyone else win. So I would require huge help from you, the people, because if I do run, and I run to win, I would be the first president elected in this country that would belong to no political party since George Washington, the father of our country.
What would you have done on September the 12th, 2001? What would you have done if you'd been president?
What would I have done?
Yeah.
I would have done a legitimate investigation to find out what exactly happened on 9/11. How did they know who did this so quickly like they did Lee Harvey Oswald? How quick they knew Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy.
Because the people who did it were identified and we knew who they were.
Well, then why couldn't we have stopped them beforehand if they were identified and we knew who they were?
It was a failure of intelligence. Everyone's accepted
No, it
that.
wasn't. We knew before with Condoleezza Rice's memo on August 6th when it stated right in the memo, bin Laden to steal planes and run them into buildings. And more stuff is coming out now also, how much the Bush administration ignored the intelligence. It was almost like they ignored it because they wanted it to happen.
Oh, come off it, Jesse.
No, not oh, come off it. Wait a minute. Every war starts with a false flag operation.
You can't, in all seriousness, sit there and try and make out anybody.
Okay, let me ask you this, Piers. Wait a minute. Let me ask you something. How much studying have you actually done of 9/11 other than what the government's told you and what mainstream media has told you? I've been studying it 4 years.
I was editor of a national newspaper.
I've talked to people.
Wait a minute. Depth every day for 5-6 months.
Really?
So I know a lot about it.
Well, then how come? Let me ask you this.
You cannot say that any member of the Bush administration knew it was going to happen or wanted it to happen. It's a ridiculous thing to say.
Ridiculous. Okay, let's talk about your BBC. I have a tape of a BBC reporter broadcasting directly back to England talking about a third building has collapsed. World Trade Center Building 7 talks for 7 minutes. All the while she's talking, World Trade Center Building 7 is still standing right behind her. It didn't fall for another half hour. Yet they were doing a pre-broadcast back to England that, yes, it's true,
you need to
that this building fell and it hadn't fallen yet.
If you're trying to make out the British Broadcasting Company, one of the most respected news organisations in the world, was inventing huge buildings falling over, you need to have a break, Jesse. We'll come back after the break and we'll talk about Israel and Iran.
Are you kidding me? This is a fact, my friend. United States is not in any threat. They're not going to do a Normandy invasion on us, Al-Qaeda in Virginia.
No, but hang on, you're being slightly naive, aren't you? Because
I'm not being naive, sir.
I think you are being naive.
No.
Because I think that it's clear one of the main reasons that America went into Afghanistan was to try and get Al-Qaeda dismantled, the organization which committed the 9/11 atrocity.
Really?
That was Jesse Ventura live along with our studio audience. We left a fairly heated debate about various theories that you have about 9/11 and so on. Let's move on to...
Oh, and the government only has a theory.
Right, well, the government has...
No, this is a theory. Their theory is 19 Islamic radicals armed with box cutters defeated our multi-billion-dollar air defense system, all while conspiring with a bearded guy in a cave in Afghanistan.
That is exactly what happened.
That's their theory.
No, that's not a theory, it's a fact.
That's their theory.
No, Jesse,
that's a fact.
That's what happened.
Really?
Yes, I'm sorry to kill your conspiracy theories, but that is what happened.
Then why haven't anyone been brought up for trial?
Because they
haven't given one shred of evidence in a trial.
In case you missed the story.
Well, then what do we got all these guys in Gitmo for? And we got the supposed confessor to it, who they waterboarded 180 times to get the confession. Got news for you, Piers. If they waterboarded you 180 times, you'd confess to it.
You see, now you're missing the point. On that very point, I don't agree with Guantanamo Bay. I didn't agree with the waterboarding, personally. But let's move on. Let's move on to Iran and Israel. If you were the American president, with all the jungle drums beating now about Iran, would you take any military action?
Well, first let me state that Iran has to do this. Because if you notice, the United States doesn't mess with any country that's got nuclear capabilities. They only mess with countries that don't. So all countries that don't have it strive to get it because it's a safety mechanism to have it. So of course Iran's going to try to get the stuff.
Should they be allowed to have it?
Should they be allowed to? I don't know.
Well, yes or no?
I don't know.
You're a man of opinions.
No, I don't.
You may be running for office. You're entitled to know what you think.
Not right now. You don't. I need to study it more.
How very convenient.
Yes, it is very convenient.
So you know about everything that happened before 9/11, but right now, when you have Iran potentially nuking itself up, you don't have an opinion.
Well, let's leave that up to the nuclear inspectors that go in there. They will tell us whether they're nuking it up before you decide to bomb them.
I didn't decide to bomb anybody.
No, but you seem to be very favorable.
You're trying to put words into my mouth all the time, which is it's not a very good technique when you're debating with somebody. Just stick to facts.
How many political offices have you held?
None.
Then don't tell me how to debate, because I've held 2.
Oh, I've debated many times.
But you've never won an election where a debate was required.
I think you make some very sensible points, and you make some crackpot points.
That's your opinion?
Yes.
How many people here think I make crackpot points?
Yeah.
1. How many think I make sensible points? You're in a minority, my good friend. You're the minority.